Okay, welcome to Teen Topics, How to Volunteer. So this is a panel for a few reasons, partly because I wanted to introduce our teens in the community here to some of the great organizations who also happen to be seeking teen volunteers, as well as give us the chance to advertise our own teen volunteering programs. There are lots of different places teens can apply their interests and skills out in the community, and we just want to make sure everybody knows how to make the most of those opportunities. So we'll go ahead and get started. I had offered a section for us to share your name and what you hope to learn today. So if that applies to you, feel free to throw your answers in the chat. Feel free to make use of the chat as we go. There will be a designated spot for Q&A for each of our speakers, so feel free to use that as well. I will go ahead and get started and talk just a little bit about why should you consider volunteering. Now, the fact that you've signed up for a panel on teen topics or you are watching this recording after the fact means that you've probably already bought into the idea of volunteering. But let me offer a little more encouragement for you. One reason to volunteer is specifically helping strangers can raise your own sense of self-worth. It's not the same to help your friends or family, statistically in the research. It's specifically because helping a stranger is more challenging than assisting a friend. So when you take that risk and then you succeed, you feel more competent. So it's kind of its own reward, which is always nice. Like you can practice your skills and better develop them, and then you can go on and use them for other things down the line. Volunteering also connects you to others, which can help combat feelings of loneliness. I think if there's one thing that we've really learned from the past couple of years is that it's really easy to feel isolated and alone. So volunteering can kind of help you combat some of that by helping you connect socially to other people. It can broaden your network and make you more aware of other opportunities in your community, and can help you alleviate mental health concerns like depression through feeling more connected with others. Volunteering allows you to explore new interests and try new things. It's a good way to try out a field you're interested in to see if the day-to-day experience matches your impression of the work involved. So obviously, like a lot of people really want to become like doctors or nurses, and then maybe they go into an actual medical environment and then they decide, yes, this is for me, or no, that is not for me. It can really go either way. And the only way to learn is to practice being in that environment and seeing how it goes. So even though the task may be very different as a volunteer than what you'd have as a professional, you can still kind of get a little bit more of a realistic job experience through volunteering and trying things out. You can, of course, also gain relevant experience for future applications, for jobs, or for further educational opportunities. So many colleges and employers like to see volunteer experience as part of a well-rounded applicant. And one thing that's really important is to make a good impression when you're a teen volunteer. It can be a little scary to go into a new environment, but always keep in mind, everybody wants the best for each other in that process. Some tips to take advantage of being a teen volunteer is you want to be dependable. You want to show up when you've committed to showing up, and have reliable transportation or volunteer at a location that's easy for you to get to. If you don't have access to a car, someplace you could reach on a bus or a bicycle, or even with your own 2 feet. Of course, communicate. Sometimes this can be a little hard as a teen, I think. Like if you have questions, sometimes it feels really difficult to speak up, but your volunteer coordinator is there to help you, and they can't solve problems if they aren't aware of them. So by speaking up, you're helping yourself and you're helping everyone else around you. And yes, if we can see the class recording afterwards on YouTube. The library does have a YouTube channel. It will take probably a few days to process, so just keep an eye out for it. You should also be curious. Come into an environment with an open mind, be willing to try different things, and maybe question your assumptions, meet new people. Always dress for the work. So different environments will have completely different expectations for the dress code. So you could need to wear business casual, you could need to dress up in something that could get really dusty or dirty. Closed-toed shoes versus like open-toed shoes could be like a really important consideration. I know like shelving at the library, you wouldn't necessarily think could be dangerous, but in my experience, always wear closed-toed shoes. You don't want those book covers hitting your toes if you happen to drop some. So there's lots of environments where that could be a consideration. Obviously, like if you're going to volunteer at a place that involves like medication or that kind of thing, usually there's like really specific kinds of clothing you have to wear in those environments. So that's kind of my overview of how to be a good teen volunteer. And I've asked all of our participants to share their own knowledge and information of like what makes a teen volunteer most desirable in their specific locations, like ways that you can appeal to their process and how they do things. So of our guests, Sydney, would you like to go ahead and take over for the Kansas Humane Society?
Yes, I can definitely do that. I apologize. I don't have video availability on my computer currently.
No
But
worries. Do you have a slideshow you'd like to share or anything like that?
Unfortunately, I don't. I ended up having to be out of the office for a couple days, so I wasn't able to get that done. But I mean, any questions or anything at the end, I mean, always feel free to let me know and everything. So here
Absolutely.
at the Kansas Humane Society, we are one of pretty much a private animal shelter here in Wichita. We are different from the Wichita Animal Shelter, but we do partner with them. So we need volunteers all the time. We do have our youth volunteer program, which is specifically for our teen volunteers that are in high school. Usually those are going to be anybody who is 16 to about 18 years old. So for those volunteers, rather than having to worry about having a parent with them, like some of our minor volunteers, they are welcome to come on their own, just because we have the mindset of at that point, you have your learner's permit, you are able to drive, you are welcome to come in and socialize our animals, and that you are old enough and have the respect enough for those animals to be able to do those things on your own. So with our youth volunteers, our teen volunteers, we do expect the same expectations as any of our adult volunteers. We do expect them to be following the dress code, following all of our policies and procedures that we have in place. That is to help make sure that everybody stays as safe as they possibly can, because most of our animals are strays. We don't know most of their history. And so it's just a way to ensure that no matter what animal you are interacting with, that you have the necessary information for it. So as you can see, that is our main website, which is just kshumane.org. And then our volunteer page does have how to become a volunteer, what the requirements are, and just being able to get started on that. It's very simple. Pretty much we do expect volunteers to give us, if they are 18 and older, at least their driver's license for background checks. We do have a lot of children that volunteer with us, part of families, but also with animals. They are considered a vulnerable part of the population. So that is something that we are expected to do here in the shelter. So when you are filling out the form, just make sure that if you do have a driver's license that you are giving that to us, just so we can do a quick one. There's usually very, very rarely where we actually have any issues with those. But some of the things that our teen volunteers get to do is they get to do animal interactions. So they get to walk with our dogs, play with our cats. If we have small mammals, even being able to play with those. That could be rats, mice, rabbits, hamsters, pretty much anything along those lines. We also have different other areas. So we have our clinic, which takes care of all the animals here in the shelter. We have volunteers that help in there. You can take photos of the animals so that we can post them on our website. You can also then help with like our adoptions, helping animals get adopted. And so there's there's a lot of different things that you guys can help with if you come to the shelter and sign up for it. It's a very simple process. You can get started usually within a week. All of our training is online. So you watch 3 videos after you fill out an application. And then once those videos are done, you sign up to come and do a mentor session where you get to see everything behind the scenes of the shelter. You get to go over everything. You get your t-shirt. And it just kind of finalizes that whole training process. Like I said, it's very quick and simple. It only takes about a week to get through all of that process. So, I mean, if you guys have any questions, I mean, I am pretty much always available through email, which is primarily our email. I'll put it in the chat for you guys. So that way, if you do have any questions, you can always reach out to that. Most of the time, I'm not at my desk to receive phone calls, unfortunately. But at least through email, I am always available for you guys. And then, like she said earlier, if you do have questions, always let us know. If you have concerns, let us know. And again, if we don't know, there's no way for us to really help out in those situations. So those are just kind of the main areas that volunteers for our teen volunteers are able to help with. Again, since we classify them as adults here in the shelter and everything, even though they are 16 to 18 years old, they are able to help in pretty much almost all of the different areas here in the shelter and with the animals.
And I'll throw in a quick question. I know we had several registrants who were kind of more in like that 12 to 14 age range. So they would need a parent to volunteer. But what else does that process look like for that age group?
So for the age group, the youngest that we accept volunteer-wise is 9 years old. So between 9 and 15, like you mentioned, they do have to have a parent or guardian accompany them here at the shelter. It is pretty much the same process. They would just need to fill out an application, go through the training. And then when they're actually here at the shelter, they are welcome to interact with the animals, help with laundry, dishes, all those different things as well, but they just have to have a parent with them. Unfortunately, we do not allow anybody who is under the age of 12 to hold the dog leashes. That is just for safety concerns. Most of our dogs are going to be medium to large size, and we just don't want kids to accidentally be pulled onto the ground if a dog gets really excited about something. So kids who are 12 and older are actually able to handle the leash for our dogs, but cats are a little different. Most of the time, any kids between 9 and 15 are still welcome to hold them and cuddle them at that age range, because cats are a little bit, they're going to be more in rooms. And so they're not going to be in a situation where you'd have to worry about kids being pulled over and knocked over by a dog.
Yeah, definitely. Is there a certain time of year that's that you see more need for volunteers?
I wouldn't say there's necessarily a certain time of year where we would need more. We always need help here in the shelter. Every single day, we always have around 200 animals that we have to care for. And so being able to have volunteers come in and help us with our constant laundry that we have always going, dishes, walking the dogs, so that way they get that interaction and that time outside, and as well as interacting with our cats. That is the really important areas, because it allows those animals to be socialized, and which then in turn helps them get adopted a little bit quicker, because they have that experience with a bunch of different types of people, different age ranges, and it just makes them more adoptable to anybody who is looking for a new pet.
Yeah, definitely. Would you say like there's any particular characteristics you look for in volunteers, or if someone was interested in working with animals as a career and kind of wanted to break into that field by volunteering, like what are some good characteristics to have?
I would definitely say some good characteristics is to definitely be open-minded in the animal fields, whether it's vet clinics, shelters, farm animals, just any of those different areas. There are things that are always going to come up. Animals, they can't communicate with us. And so you don't always know what's going to happen. So you definitely need to be open-minded in those situations. Definitely needing to be reliable. With animals, again, they can't communicate with us, and so we need to be able to be there for them every single day. and take care of all those daily needs that need to be done, such as feeding, socializing them, walking them, cleaning up their areas to make sure that they have a healthy and safe environment. That is going to be another important thing, is being reliable and being able to come in on those days that you need to, and making sure that those animals are always taken care of. And then also I would say another one is just definitely being communicative, just because a lot of things are always going to happen. A lot of the time in these fields, there are multiple people that are interacting and also taking care of these same animals. And so if something happens, being able to really and effectively communicate what you saw happen with that animal, if you saw that they really need something medically, being able to get them to the right person, and also letting other people who are going to interact with that animal know that information. And so I would say those are going to be the three biggest things that I would say if you are looking for volunteering in an animal sector. Like I said, whether it's with like farm animals, vet clinics, or at an animal shelter, those are going to be the main things.
And here's more of a fun question. What do you like best about volunteering or working with volunteers at the Humane Society?
I mean, my favorite thing, honestly, about working with the volunteers is just being able to see and talk to everybody. It's really fun to get to know everybody kind of more on a personal level rather than just saying hi and passing through the hallways, which I mean is definitely fun, but I like being able to build more of those connections, know what's going on with my volunteers. That way, if they are having trouble with something, I can help them out in those situations. And then also just making them feel like I am somebody that they can come to with questions, concerns, or whatever else that they may need help with. But I mean, also another fun thing about the job is we have dogs that walk through the office all the time. We have cats that come through for our rescue program all the time. So being able to interact with those animals just randomly and just kind of give a nice little break from whatever work that I'm doing is also really fun.
Yeah, definitely. Would you say there's like any kind of cap on volunteer hours, or if somebody is like working towards a specific number of hours they need for like an honors organization or something, like what do those timelines look like for your organization in terms of saying, hey, I need 40 hours before this date? What does that process look like?
So for anybody who is needing to do community service hours, most of the time we don't really have, unless they have a set date that it has to be completed by, we don't really have any set timeline or anything like that for them. We do constantly sign off on papers that need signatures and things like that, or I send reports to um, schools for kids that need to have those hours signed off on. But our volunteers, they have very flexible hours. They are able to come any day of the week, anywhere between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. pretty much every day. So they have numerous opportunities to be able to come in and get those hours done, especially if it's in a short time frame. The only thing that we at least require of our volunteers is they come in for at least 2 visits each month. That's just the bare minimum. In each of those visits, they can stay for as long as they're able to. So if they're only able to come in for 20 minutes one day, that will still count as one of their visits. So we did try to make it as flexible as possible, especially because, again, with some of our high school volunteers and teen volunteers and everything, they always have sports, they have school. There's some of them are working full-time jobs and everything. So having that flexibility allows them to, if they still want to volunteer, they have the opportunity and they don't have to feel crunched on time or anything like that. So there is a lot of leeway for those. But again, if people do have a set time frame that they need to get those done, we do help allow them to have that time frame to get it done, and then also being able to sign off on them and help them get those hours in.
All right, did anyone else have any other questions for Sydney specific to Humane Society volunteering? And we're just adding someone in as well. So I'll do that. Okay, and I will, so to reach Sydney at the Kansas Humane Society, it's volunteer@kshumane.org. And we'll definitely make sure to link it in the description of the YouTube video as well. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
I don't believe so. I pretty much, that is kind of everything for our volunteer program, at least for our teens and everything like that. But it also does, like I said and mentioned, correlate to a lot of our adult volunteers as well, because most of our teen volunteers we do consider as adults as well. They just have a different age bracket for our system. So.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for your time and your information and sharing with us today.
Yes, thank you so much. I was definitely happy to be able to share that with you guys.
Okay, do we happen to have our community theater guest with us? Okay. Hopefully they will be along here in a little bit. In the meantime, I am happy to talk about library volunteering. So give me just a sec to get that screen shared once more. Okay. And again, feel free to drop in chat any questions you may have as I continue to speak. So I am our teen services librarian here at the Wichita Public Library. We also have youth services librarians at each of our branch libraries who do teen programming and also help run our summer teen volunteer program. So basically our tagline for this program is want to help your community but don't know how, volunteer at the library this summer. This summer, our in-person volunteer program will be running from Tuesday, May 31st through Friday, July 29th. Each of the locations will accept volunteers, and we all kind of have our own process. So that's why interviews has an asterisk. We'll be interviewing applicants here at the Advanced Learning Library, but some of the other branches have their own processes, and they may or may not do interviews depending on how they've decided to structure their program. But you will all be doing the same tasks. In-person volunteers at the library for summer reading help other young people enroll in summer reading and collect prizes. They help tidy library areas and assist with shelving. So being able to alphabetize is a must. You'll help staff with special events and programs. You'll do some data entry on a computer because we log all of our information into a program called Beanstack. And you'll also help with preparing crafts, cutting paper, organizing items, and some other like small daily tasks. So in order to volunteer at the Wichita Public Library, you must be entering grades 8 through 12 in the fall. So generally that means you're about 13 years old. But if you're 12 and going into 8th grade, talk to us. You need to be dependable and show up for your shifts. So make sure you have a ride worked out. Usually people work a couple to 3 like 2-hour shifts a week. But again, this kind of depends on the branch you're at and how they've chosen to schedule their volunteers. And of course, ask your parent or guardian for permission. There's a signature line on the form. But you will be volunteering solo in terms of like your parent doesn't need to be there with you to do it. So our applications go live on our website on Monday, March the 14th, which is next week. We'll start accepting apps on Friday, the 18th, which is important. So that gives you time to fill it out, talk to your parent, and then submit it to the location of your choice. You'll be able to choose your first and second choice of locations. And then training will take place generally in April and May. And then you will be helping out throughout the summer. If you have a camp or vacation scheduled during those program dates, we can typically work around it, but it's really important that you disclose those dates on your application so we have that in mind when we're trying to figure out staffing. because scheduling is a big concern with this program. We need to make sure that we have somebody at the station at all times during library hours. You'll get a fancy t-shirt that says volunteer on it to wear to work. So that's kind of the dress code, is just make sure that you're wearing your volunteer t-shirt. And that's pretty much the program. Does anyone have any questions about our in-person volunteers here at the library? Okay. We do have a second volunteer program as well, which are our virtual teen library ambassadors. So the in-person volunteer program is more for, you like to talk to strangers, you like to hype up the library, you enjoy like making small talk, or kind of putting people at ease in public situations, like you're really, really good at customer service. That's that job. This job is a little more, maybe you don't like to talk to people as much, or you prefer to like just type to them. Maybe, you work really well independently on your own. And like you are really self-directed, and like you are able to be like, okay, I've got an assignment and I'm going to do this thing and then I'll turn it in. It's more that vibe. So the Teen Library Ambassadors create creative content for library social media channels. Sometimes they write book reviews, or they'll do art that we can display either on social media or in the teen pavilion, or in other areas. It's kind of a little bit of a free form program in that you have a lot of leeway to apply your creative spirit to the assignments that are given. So that program actually will not start taking applications until after the in-person volunteers have already happened. So if you're an in-person volunteer or you want to prioritize that program, you will have that opportunity to do that. The Virtual Teen Library Ambassadors is really a program that's meant for people who prefer virtual over in-person. So it'll run about the same time. There's a lot more flexibility. You have a certain number of hours that are due each week, and then you'll turn them in on a weekly basis. And then by the end of the program, you will have completed so many hours of volunteer work. And then in person, of course, you'll have your scheduled shifts. And so it'll be like the physical time you've spent at the library is how many volunteer hours you've had. So the in-person program, I believe you'll on average complete like 32 hours. The virtual ambassadors is a little less than that, but you can actually submit more and get, again, up to about 32 hours. So that's most of the way through programs like that you might be required to do for Honor Society. So there is some flexibility there if you need to complete a certain number of hours, and then get proof of that for later on in your applications. That was most of what I had to talk to you about. In terms of like being successful as a volunteer with the library, again, being dependable, being communicative, being really curious, I think can be important, just in terms of usually people who want to spend a lot of time at libraries tend to be very curious people, in my experience. So I think that's a good trait to have, always kind of keeping your eye out for what to do next, how you can smooth the way for your teammates and coworkers. So working in person at the library, you will often have somebody working on shift beside you. Sometimes you might be alone, especially if you are scheduled on an evening, but you'll always have staff available to assist you. So don't hesitate to reach out to them. And then as a virtual ambassador, you'll use the virtual platform Discord to communicate with other volunteers and with me, the Teen Services Librarian. So you'll need to be communicative in that respect in terms of, do you need help completing an assignment? Do you need more feedback on dimensions or something like really technical about what you're doing? So there's lots of opportunity for socialization either way, I think. Whether you prefer like kind of like that chat room approach of Discord, or if you are in person working with other volunteers to make summer reading as best as it can possibly be. So if you are interested in volunteering with the library, again, check our website next week for applications to go live. And we look forward to having you here with us at the library. Okay. And again, I had hoped we might have a few more organizations with us, but I think it might just have been us two. So I will go ahead and let everyone else go. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to leave them in the chat, and we will be happy to get them answered for you.
Hey, Sarah, can I jump in real quick?
Sure.
Just as a side note, we do have there's lots of organizations in town that do have opportunities for teen volunteers, like we've talked about. Did we happen to mention earlier? We didn't mention the United Ways listing, did we?
We did not, but thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. United Way is a great place to go as well. They have a volunteer center online. I'm going to pull up the link here so you can kind of check this out. It has a database. There's the link in the chat there. They have a database where you can search for opportunities based on kind of, your parameters, what you're looking for, the time commitment you can make, what your talents and interests are. And so that's yet another place to look through and find volunteer opportunities. No matter what age you are, they've probably got a listing there that applies to you.
And I know some of my other current teen library ambassadors have expressed that their guidance counselors are always great resources on additional volunteer opportunities in the community. So don't discount simply asking around. Maybe your parents or your parents' friends know of some other programs. There's all kinds of opportunities out there, and sometimes it's surprising what you'll find if you simply think to ask. So never discount the power of asking for what you want, and eventually, hopefully, someone will have the answer for you, no matter what interest or skill you may have.